Good morning, I'm Craig Negrelli. It's Monday, January 13th, 2025, and these are your Unbiased Updates. A new week begins and the firefight goes on in Southern California. This morning, the death toll has risen. More buildings are charred, people are missing, and there are big concerns about strong winds. And this morning, is there finally an end in sight to the war in the Middle East between Israel and the terror group Hamas? The progress made toward a ceasefire and the status of the remaining hostages who've been held captive since October of 2023.
From the Straight Arrow News Studio, bringing the stories that matter to you from across the United States and around the world, these are today's Unbiased Updates.
We begin with the story captivating the entire country, the fires in Southern California. At least 24 people are now confirmed dead and dozens more missing. This morning, firefighters say they're making progress against the wildfires that have now been burning for almost a week in the Los Angeles area. But the threat will remain very high as dangerous Santa Ana winds are expected to pick up again starting today. Weary fire crews say it's not safe enough in many areas to assess the true total damage. 3 fires continue to burn this morning: the Palisades, the Eaton, and the Hearst fires, all of which broke out last Tuesday. The Palisades fire remains the biggest and least contained at more than 23,000 acres with only 13% containment. Officials expanded evacuation orders for the Palisades fire as it now moves east, threatening the Brentwood and Encino areas. The Eaton fire is just over 14,000 acres and 27% contained. According to Cal Fire, they're now the second and fourth most destructive fires in state history. The Los Angeles County Fire Department says flames have destroyed more than 7,000 buildings in the Eaton fire alone. Investigators are only about a quarter of the way through their damage assessment. The county is now under a public health emergency because of the plumes of smoke blowing and hovering, as well as particulate matter, which could not only be a problem now, but in the long term as well. Now to the ongoing war in the Middle East. This morning, mediators with the United States, Qatar, and Egypt say they've made significant progress in brokering a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas, but nothing has been finalized just yet. The deal would also result in the release of dozens of hostages held by Hamas in the Gaza Strip ever since the terror group attacked Israel on October 7, 2023. It is believed there are a total of 98 hostages. However, as many as 36 are feared dead. Officials briefed on the negotiations said there was a breakthrough in Doha overnight following talks between Israel's spy chiefs, President-elect Donald Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, and Qatar's prime minister. In addition, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Joe Biden spoke about the ceasefire deal on the phone Sunday. Officials say negotiators for Israel and Hamas have taken a proposed final draft of the deal back to their leaders for approval. This is not the first time there appears to be a deal to end the devastating war, and that it's close. The U.S. has said several times over the past year a deal was imminent, only for it to fall through. An Egyptian official said an agreement will likely take a few more days, and both sides are aiming for a deal before Donald Trump's inauguration next Monday. However, Hamas says there are still issues that need to be resolved, including an Israeli commitment to ending the war and details about the withdrawal of Israeli troops from Gaza and the hostage prisoner exchange. To politics, as changes are underway in Washington, 2 big interviews are making headlines this morning. The incoming Vice President, J.D. Vance, and the outgoing FBI Director, Christopher Wray, gave their thoughts to Fox News and CBS News, respectively, with just 1 week to go until Inauguration Day. In his first interview since leaving the U.S. Senate, Vance spoke to Fox News Sunday of executive orders concerning illegal immigration on day 1 of the Trump administration, and of being hopeful there soon will be a ceasefire deal in the war between Israel and Hamas. Vance was also asked about President-elect Donald Trump's plans to pardon those convicted in connection with the January 6th storming of the Capitol.
I think it's very simple. Look, if you protested peacefully on January the 6th and you've had Merrick Garland's Department of Justice treat you like a gang member, you should be pardoned. If you committed violence on that day, obviously you shouldn't be pardoned. And there's a little bit of a gray area there, but we're very much committed to seeing the equal administration of law. And there are a lot of people, we think, in the wake of January the 6th who were prosecuted unfairly. We need to rectify that.
Over on 60 Minutes, FBI Director Christopher Wray explained his decision to step down 3 years before the end of his 10-year term. Donald Trump appointed Wray in 2017 during Trump's first administration. The FBI director then oversaw investigations into Trump, as well as President Joe Biden and Biden's son Hunter. President-elect Trump intends to replace Christopher Wray with former aide Kash Patel.
Well, my decision to retire from the FBI, I have to tell you, was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. I care deeply about the FBI, about our mission, and in particular about our people. But, the president-elect had made clear that he intended to make a change, and the law is that is something he's able to do for any reason or no reason at all. My conclusion was that the thing that was best for the Bureau was to try to do this in an orderly way, to not thrust the FBI deeper into the fray.
Wray was also asked about Donald Trump's plans to pardon many of the roughly 1,500 people charged with federal crimes in the January 6th riots.
I do think it's important to step back and remember that we're talking about hundreds of people who are convicted, most of them pled guilty, of serious federal crimes. Heck, I think 170 or so of them pled guilty to assaulting law enforcement, dozens of them with dangerous or deadly weapons. And there's a whole bunch that were convicted of seditious conspiracy.
After J.D. Vance interviewed aired on Fox, the vice president-elect responded to a critic on X, saying Trump will be looking at each case concerning January 6th individually. Special counsel Jack Smith, who was appointed by Attorney General Merrick Garland to oversee the criminal investigations into President-elect Trump, has resigned from the Department of Justice. While his departure was expected, it comes as Trump and his allies continue efforts to block the release of Smith's final report on his investigations. Smith's resignation was made public Saturday in a brief footnote on a DOJ court filing to U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon of Florida. She was appointed to the bench by Donald Trump. Judge Cannon issued an order last week temporarily blocking the DOJ from releasing Smith's investigation into Trump's interference in the 2020 election results. The DOJ filed an emergency motion late Friday asking a federal appeals court to reverse the order.
Okay, we've just been getting an update from Mission Control. We are standing down today's launch attempt to troubleshoot a vehicle subsystem issue that will take us beyond our launch window. We are reviewing opportunities for our next launch attempt.
That was the word as it came down this morning from Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin as the company's planned launch of its New Glenn rocket from the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida was called off due to what they called a few anomalies found during the countdown. The delay of the rocket's inaugural attempt to reach orbit could last just 24 hours or be longer. The launch, when it does happen, will include an attempt to land New Glenn's first stage booster on a barge in the Atlantic Ocean. In an interview with Reuters before the launch attempt, Bezos said that the booster landing is, quote, the thing we're most nervous about. Finally this morning, the NFL's wild card weekend saw one wild finish last night. 5 teams advanced over the weekend to the divisional round with still one more wild card game to be played tonight. On Saturday, the Houston Texans defeated the Los Angeles Chargers 32-12 in the opening game of wild card weekend. Then the Baltimore Ravens moved on with a convincing 28-14 win over the Pittsburgh Steelers. On Sunday, the Buffalo Bills dominated the Denver Broncos 31-7, while the Philadelphia Eagles got the W against Green Bay, defeating the Packers 22-10. Then, late last night, a last-second field goal with the ball hitting the upright and going through, known as a doink, if you will, that gave the Washington Commanders a 23-20 win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Washington's first playoff win since the 2005 season. Tonight, the Minnesota Vikings meet the Los Angeles Rams in a game moved from Los Angeles to Arizona due to the wildfires. And since we're talking football, a reminder, in 1 week it will be the college football playoff national championship game between Notre Dame and Ohio State. So there's plenty of football ahead. Man, some of those games were great this weekend. I was riveted to the TV. Those are your unbiased updates for this Monday. We'll see you back here on Tuesday. For all of us here at Straight Arrow News, I'm Craig DeGrelli. Have a great day.